Manuel Antonio Noriega was born in 1934 in Panama, a country shaped by foreign influence, strategic geography, and fractured politics. His early years were shaped by ambition and a knack for navigating power. As a young man, Noriega entered the Panamanian military, where he quickly proved himself disciplined, intelligent, and ambitious. He climbed the ranks with an eye for influence. By the 1970s, he was no ordinary officer. He was a master of political maneuvering, information networks, and alliances that stretched beyond Panama's borders. Yet few could have guessed that this man would one day become both the strongman of his nation and one of the most controversial figures in late 20th century geopolitics.
Noriega was not just a soldier. He was a strategist, an operator, a fixer. In the shadows of the Cold War, he forged relationships with foreign intelligence services, including those of powerful nations. He learned how to play different sides against each other, gaining support, information, and protection. For years he maintained a delicate balance, keeping ties with the United States while building influence at home. He became deeply embedded in Panama's security apparatus, tapping into corruption, patronage, and the levers of power in ways few others could. Some saw him as a stabilizing force in a turbulent region. Others already saw something darker, a man who wielded power not just with force, but with calculation and secrecy.
By the early 1980s, Noriega had consolidated his power. Through political pressure, military influence, and media control, he became the de facto ruler of Panama, even without the title of president. He controlled the armed forces, the intelligence organs, and much of the political machinery. To many, Noriega was untouchable. Under his rule, Panama became a gauntlet of fear and loyalty. Opponents disappeared or were sidelined. Elections were rigged, voices were silenced, and the machinery of the state bent to his will. But while Noriega tightened control at home, his foreign alliances were far from simple. He was both an informant and, later, an irritant, maintaining ties with U.S. intelligence while cultivating relationships with others who opposed American influence.
Internationally, Noriega was viewed through a prism of contradiction. In some circles he was an ally, a source of intelligence and regional influence at a time when the Cold War split the world into competing blocs. But behind that veneer, accusations grew: corruption, repression, drug trafficking links, money laundering, and human rights abuses. At home, fear became a tool of governance. Dissent was punished. The media were pressured. Panama's economy grew dependent on Noriega's networks, both legal and illegal. Citizens learned to live with checkpoints, with surveillance, with the uncertainty of what might happen to those who crossed invisible lines. To Noriega's supporters, he was a patriot defending Panama's interests. To his opponents, he was a tyrant whose grip was tightening like a vice.
By the late 1980s, relations with the United States had deteriorated dramatically. A man once tolerated as an intelligence asset was now seen as a liability, a destabilizing force in the region, deeply implicated in narcotics trafficking and undermining democratic processes. Diplomacy creaked. Threats were whispered. Sanctions were applied. And the pressure began to mount. Inside Panama, unrest grew. Students protested. Opposition leaders gained voice. The once secure strongman felt the ground under him shifting.
In December 1989, the United States launched a full-scale military invasion of Panama, known as Operation Just Cause. The stated objectives were to protect U.S. citizens, defend democracy, and capture Manuel Noriega. In a massive display of force, airborne troops, armored columns, and urban combat, U.S. forces swept into Panama City. The confrontation was intense, and the world watched as the invading force pursued a man whose influence had once been tolerated and even courted. After weeks of standoff, Noriega sought refuge in the Vatican diplomatic mission. But he could not escape forever. Surrounded and cut off, he finally surrendered, ending his reign and bringing to a close one of the most dramatic chapters in Central American history.
Noriega was transported to the United States, where he faced trial on charges of drug trafficking, racketeering, and money laundering. He was convicted and sentenced to prison, a fall from power that few had predicted when he first rose through the ranks. Years later, after serving time in U.S. prisons, Noriega was extradited to France to face further charges, and later to Panama to stand trial for human rights abuses under his regime. His final years were marked by health problems and isolation, a stark contrast to the days when he commanded armies and negotiated with presidents. In 2017, Manuel Noriega died, not on a battlefield or in a palace, but in a hospital bed, far from the heights and horrors of the power he once wielded.
Manuel Noriega's life is a story of talent entwined with danger, a man who rose from rural beginnings to command a nation, a figure shaped by shadowy alliances, immense ambition, and ruthless tactics. He was a soldier, an intelligence actor, a power broker, a target of invasion, and a convicted criminal. His legacy cannot be reduced to simple labels. He was both product and architect of turbulent times in the Cold War era. Today, Panama remembers him not just as a ruler, but as a warning that power, when fused with secrecy and unchecked ambition, can elevate a man and ultimately destroy him.